welcome to Business 150, Introduction to Management. We are now in module number 6, dealing with the topic of planning and decision making. And we're going to be talking about in this module things like strategy, setting goals, working out strategy for both corporate level and business level, emphases, a whole bunch of stuff. So as you can see, we're going to start out this particular first video with the topic of planning. What does it mean as a manager to plan, to be responsible for plans, establishing them, as well as crafting them and disseminating them out to the entire organization, and then to execute on them? How does that intersect with the topic of strategy and with internal and external analysis of the environment? These are all kinds of things we're going to talk about in this module. Let's start out with the topic of planning. When we talk about planning, we hope that after this first video, you'll be able to discuss the benefits that planning can bring to an organization and list the 8 primary steps in organizational planning. So let's get started. What is a plan? What's the nature of planning? You can see there, the basic definition: a plan is a set of activities intended to achieve goals. In some senses, you might look at it and say it's a roadmap. It is an essential part of making sure you arrive at your planned destination. You can see there that planning works not only for organizations, but for departments, individual divisions, even for individuals, to plan your course, to plan where do you want to get to and how are you going to get there. And that's really the third bullet point, right? That as the little illustration there on the right humorously sort of tries to demonstrate, a roadmap, a plan is a roadmap that answers the fundamental question: how do we get there from where we are now? How do we get there from here? Obviously, we know that planning in and of itself does not necessarily guarantee success. Having the plan does not guarantee you'll arrive there, but we can pretty much guarantee that not planning is a very, very effective first step to making sure you fail. Therefore, that is why we plan. That is why all good, competent managers set about the task of planning and take it seriously. What does planning do for you? You can see right here. Planning forces managers to focus. Now, this in and of itself is a highly desirable benefit because time and attention is always at a premium for managers. Managers are always busy. Managers always have multiple demands on their plate. They always have competing interests trying to tear their attention away from the things they would like to focus upon. And therefore, as you can see there, planning forces us to focus and to focus on the organization's present status and the environment. Not only does it do that, it coordinates the activities of both groups and individuals in the organization. It provides motivation for managers and employees and eventually leads to higher performance levels. It's a way to measure and stay the course. It's a way to unite all sorts of varied individuals in the organization to move to the same direction. It helps all of us to focus on what are the organization's goals, not necessarily what are my individual goals, what are my selfish goals, what are my career goals, but no, what is the organization's goals that we are all working together to try to accomplish. And that's why I add at the bottom, planning makes success both repeatable and scalable. Repeatable because once we assess what parts of the plan worked really well, the chances are they worked really well for a number of reasons that might work again in a similar setting. And finally, it makes planning scalable, and that means if certain aspects of the plan worked effectively for the small unit, it's quite possible it'll work again with a larger unit. And therefore, the best of plans can scale to both small individual units and entire organizations. What are then the 8 steps of planning that the textbook offers to us to consider? You can see the 8 steps here. And it begins, as you can tell there, with the little arrows there, right? creating the mission statement of the entire organization. Great planning starts with knowing who you are as an organization, and as an entire organization, why do you exist? What are you trying to accomplish? What's your purpose? From there, we assess the current situation and then formulate where are our goals. What are our goals for long-term, intermediate, and short-term? And then we evaluate the gap between where we are and what our stated goals are. How far are we from where we want to arrive? What are the kinds of things that stand in the way between where we are and where we would like to end up? How far is the distance? How great is the distance? And then what are some things we might need in order to bridge that gap between our current position and our goals? Next, we specify assumptions about the future. Every plan makes certain presumptions about what we believe will remain the same and what may change in the near future. And therefore, we have to explicitly specify what those assumptions are so that we can see how they constrain and motivate and provide challenges in our plan. From there, we end up creating the formal plan, typically not just as an individual, but with a team, and then choose how to implement the plan. What resources will need to be deployed, in what sequence and what order. How many people will we need and in what specialization in order to implement the plan. After we have completed our implementation, you see we're still not done. The last and very important 8th step, to measure and evaluate the results. And then, how do we adjust? Did we accomplish our plan? Did we accomplish part of our plan but not all of it? Why were some of the reasons and what can we learn from that? All of those in that all-important 8th step, the evaluation of the results. Those are the 8 explicit steps of planning, and they build upon each other. Notice you're not really going to get to step 2 until you've completed step 1. And you certainly won't get to step 7 until you've completed step 6. They are cumulative and they are sequential. As you can see here, this illustration right from your textbook, you can see that this tries to emphasize is that these steps of planning are cumulative. They build upon each other. And therefore, each of these steps is absolutely necessary to the steps that we'll follow. And every one of these steps are important in order to actually accomplish the goals and mission of the organization. In this short video, then, we hope that you have been able to at least get a flavor for some of the benefits that planning gives to an organization and brings to not only managers, but to all employees and the entire organization. And then to really get a sense for these 8 sequential steps in planning as described to us by the textbook, how they build upon each other and how each of them are absolutely necessary for us to be able as organizational leaders to plan, to implement, to execute, and then to learn from what the results of our plan have laid out. We hope that that's helpful for you just as we kick off this module, this series on planning in this module number 6. We hope you'll stick with us. We hope you'll review this in the textbook, of course, as well. And we will see you in the next lecture.